know, but it gives 8:30 a.m. I still have to edit myself. You should just on too, or someone has power. Oh, I don't
I think we should expand the rule and say you can say something you have done. But then it's more fun if you have done something, but it's fun to see whoever has done something.
No, don't be obliged to drink everything. If it's pure sugar, you shouldn't.
Yeah, you can do that. Why not for your last?
But then, like, yeah, okay, if you have one finger,
It's
you
just
have
sweet,
never
huh?
have
Yeah.
done it. Good.
At 6 in the account. In the back of the clutch?
Wow, wow, wow.
Never have I ever.
How are you feeling?
In a hostel.
How are you feeling right now?
Oh no.
Just the one to
What is? Wow.
You're gonna broke out. Red button. You see it?
Yeah, it's recording. Go ahead. Woohoo! Look at that. One full bottle of it. That was intense. He's liking it. Woo! Whoa! Oh my god! Yeah, cool.
I'm about to head out. This is my last day in Toronto, and I'll about to be heading out. Real soon. The doors open at 4:30, and this year has definitely been the best year of my life, and this will definitely go down as the best week of my life. I would like to thank MSU. I would like to thank MSU for helping me, and I would like to thank ISA for accepting my 2 papers, and I would also like to thank High Toronto Hostel for being so kind in regards to my living spaces, and I would highly recommend. Hello, well, I made it outside of Toronto. However, I'm actually not in the United States yet. However, I am actually in probably the opposite of what is Toronto. I'm in Montreal, Quebec. I am in La Belle Provence, And I would say that so far it's actually been really good. Quebec is a very beautiful province, and I have a layover that will probably be until 1, 2-ish or so. And also I have to admit that like going through U.S. Customs was a huge headache, and honestly, like, yeah, like if you have like short patience, I would not recommend traveling to the U.S. because the the border the customs is just awful. Yeah, like it's not the best when it comes to, yeah, like it's very, like, the U.S. is like extremely restrictive when it comes to like travel. But look, on the bright side, I actually have one souvenir. This will be on my refrigerator, and I got this little flag for my stay, and I actually hope to visit Quebec sooner because I really would like to see more of the see more of the province, province of Quebec, and more of the city of Montreal. So I'll see you all in the States. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that I like, this airport is called Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and this is named after a prime minister during the 70s and 80s. He was easily one of the most important prime ministers in modern Canadian history, and like he's kind of seen as the father of modern day Canada. And like actually one of the biggest accomplishments of Pierre Elliott Trudeau was actually creating the policy of multiculturalism and bilingualism, as well as creating and as well as promoting the 1982 Canadian Constitution, which is known in Britain as the Canada Act. And this legislation and this Constitution actually granted Canada full governmental independence from the British Empire. In fact, the Canada Act was actually the first was one of the first legislations that was passed, that was presented to the British House of Commons in French since medieval times. And also what made Prime Minister Trudeau very important was that he was seen as like a symbol of Anglophone Francophone unity, because he had parents that were both Anglophone and Francophone, and he lived in Quebec, and he's seen as kind of a controversial figure in Quebec, because a lot of Anglophone and Allophone Quebecois really admire and love him a lot, however, a lot of like Francophone Quebecois nationalists aren't necessarily his biggest fans because of his particular policies regarding declaring the national state of emergency in a recent terrorist attack, in which there was a hostage situation and somebody was actually killed in that situation. And one of the other legacies is that, like, the long term, a lot of his policies actually kind of like died down the Quebecois call for independence, because in a way he kind of seen Quebec as part of Canada, and Canada wasn't complete without Quebec, and he was one of the biggest opponents against Quebecois liberation. and overall, he's just an incredibly important figure in Canadian politics, and he's definitely remembered as one of the most famous and if not the best Canadian Prime Minister of all time. And he's also among the most influential leaders of the 20th century, alongside Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt. So yeah, this is the airport that's named after the father of modern day Canadian nationalism. And also this is the father of the current Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And it's going to be interesting seeing like what's going to happen regarding what will be the legacy of his son, comparing it to the legacy of it is now. Because to be quite honest, there hasn't been too much of a noticeable legacy from Prime Minister Trudeau Jr. other than like the legalization of cannabis. However, let's see what happens. Well, thank you so much. Because I remembered that particular panel. I remember that panel, like I ended it off with a quote from U.S. President Bill Clinton about Canada, and it goes as follows. I'm kind of paraphrasing it. It basically stated, in a world where ethnic tensions tear nations apart, Canada stands as a model of people living together in peace, prosperity, and mutual respect. It was one of the most famous quotes. It was one of the most famous phrases that was said by a U.S. president in Canada and regarding Canada. It was ironically enough that particular quote was said during the time of the Quebecois independence referendum, and it was also done in a time where Bill Clinton was actually trying to promote his healthcare plan, and he kind of praised Canada for that healthcare plan. Unfortunately, he's still one of the most overrated presidents of all time, and I really didn't think he was all that great. However, I really appreciate his quote, and also I really need to look at this because this is pretty bad. Oh, yeah. So that's that, and I will be heading back to this. We'll be heading back to Wichita Falls real soon, and I'll see you later. What's up? Yeah. Hello, people. I made it. I'm in Dallas right now. I had, the last week was basically was the greatest week of my life, and this was a dream, and that was a complete and total dream come true. And now, fortunately, I woke up out of that dream, and now I am back to reality. And I have 2 papers that are due next week that I haven't even started on. Actually, I have so far all I have is like an outline and also an abstract on one of them. And so yeah, this has been a very, very joyful day in my life. I would like to thank my friends and family for putting up with my crazy obsession with Canada, and I appreciate everything that I did. I appreciate the support that I got from a lot of my friends and family, especially my mother, my 2 sisters and brothers, as well as my friends, especially those in Canada and the United States, and even as far as New Zealand. So the conference itself went really well. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the Junior Scholar Symposium. I think that was definitely my favorite panel, and I really enjoyed the work that a lot of the early graduate students did. Because, like, honestly, I really wish that the Junior Symposium was actually my first panel that I did with ISA, because I remembered when I was doing ISA in San Francisco last year, it was just a regular panel, and honestly, I was kind of floundering, and I lost the fun in actually presenting my work. And I actually had a lot of fun presenting my work at the Junior Symposium on Thursday. And also there was the Saturday panel, which was pretty good. I was really impressed by the in-depth research that religion and state, like that's actually a pretty big field. Didn't really notice how big that field was, and honestly, I thought that panel, I probably ended that panel really well, because I remember